Welcome back to the Network School. In the previous lesson, we learned a little bit about networks with the help of the school analogy, where Rob wants to share certain information with Mary. Let's take this understanding to the next level, where we will introduce new network terminologies. For example, what networks are, what a subnet is, what a CIDR block is, etc. So the outer blue line that you see here is there for a reason. The outer blue line is the perimeter of your school, okay? So we're going to call it as a network. You can also imagine this as the boundary of your network at your home, where you would have a wireless Wi-Fi connection. So that's your network. Then what are those green boxes? Well, those are also networks, but because they reside inside the large box and because they are smaller than the larger box, we'll call them as sub-networks or subnets. So we have subnet 1 and subnet 2. You can think of it as two different classrooms or two different rooms in your house. Now we said that the whole school is a network, just like the way your house is a network, and the little classrooms are sub-networks, just like your rooms in your house. So we created two small networks inside that bigger network. From the previous lesson, we also understood that devices within the subnet can talk to each other directly. They do not need the router. But if they need to talk to devices in a different subnet, then they need some kind of a routing mechanism to identify the location of the destination and find the shortest path of it. Think of it like a Google map. When you put the source and destination in the map, what happens? It shows the shortest path to you. This is how it works in networks as well. The source in this case would be your device, which is, let's say, device 1, and the destination is device 2. The path to the destination and the route to the destination is calculated by the router. We did mention that we need IP addresses and not names like device 1 or device 2. It's paramount that we have IP addresses for every device. So all the devices in the networks or the subnets have IP addresses, okay? Remember that. Also remember that networks have CIDR blocks. The CIDR stands for Classless Interdomain Routing. Now this is defined in RFC 1918. Now what is RFC 1918? RFC 1918 is a document which is published in ietf.org, and here is the link which you can check later on. But for now, this RFC defines the usage of private IP addresses and blocks of IP addresses. Now this discussion is beyond the scope of this lesson, as it would take us to a totally different network world and it would be too confusing at this time. So if I start explaining about how subnet works, how we convert decimals to binary, it will just get too confusing. So let's park that discussion for now and let's just map in the mind that a CIDR block would nothing but a notation, a representation of your network. So every time you see a slash after an IP address, it's a CIDR block. A CIDR block is a notation or a representation of your entire network. It could be the whole network or the smaller subnets as well. Now, because subnet is also a network, it will also have a CIDR block. The CIDR block defines how many devices can be hosted inside a network. For example, if you have 24 in the CIDR block, let's say, it can host 256 devices in that subnet. And what if it is 30? 30 would then be 2 devices. What if it is 16? In that case, you will have 65,000 devices in that network. That's huge now, okay? So the number of devices that you have in the network is inversely proportional to the number after the slash. So the smaller the number, bigger your network is. Bigger the number after slash, less devices the network can host. Okay? You do not have to memorize these numbers, as these can be easily calculated by using the online subnet calculator. All you got to do is put your numbers here and you'll get the right statistics. Now, as you see here, I've got 30 and it is telling me that the number of hosts I can have in that subnet is 2. What if I change to 25? See, now I can host 126 devices in that subnet. What if I change it to 24? It will then go to 254. So I can host 254 devices if I have a CIDR block of 192.168.0.0/24. So go ahead and give it a try. Click on this class A, B, and C and play around how these options will change the number of hosts that can be defined in that network. All right, so moving on from that discussion, let's go ahead and start branding our networks. Let's say this network belongs to a fictitious company called as CERT Global. And CERT Global has two subnetworks or two subnets, right? Okay, great. So there is another company that CERT Global wants to transact with and also share certain data. Let's call it as Raining Cloud. Now this is also a fictitious company, okay? And we need to send some data from device 1 in subnet 1 in the third global company to the device 2 in subnet 1 inside Raining Cloud subnet. So the data needs to go from here to here. Now how will this happen? Remember that the outermost boundary, which we call as network, does not have doors yet. There must be some kind of a door that will open up when the data wants to go out and get in, isn't it? So let's install that door. Now it makes things much easier. Now technically this door is also called as a gateway. We would be using this gateway to intercept the traffic and run several intelligent algorithms on it to know if the data is alright, if it is malicious, or it is sent by the right party, etc. And then you also find the route to the destination, okay? So it's the gateway that sends the traffic out of your network. This traffic can be going to another company like Raining Cloud or to the internet. So if you're sending emails, chatting with somebody, it's still going out through the gateway. At your home, your gateway is a router itself. So let's go ahead and summarize this. Now, every device has an IP address, isn't it? Every network has a CIDR block. The CIDR block is a notation that defines the number of devices in that network. And when I say device, it can be your laptop, desktop, printer, it could be camera, it could be an IoT device, it could be just anything that can communicate on the network. Gateway is an intelligent device that sends the traffic to a different network or even to the internet. The gateway is manufactured by organizations like Cisco, Checkpoint, Barracuda, etc. Well, these are the well-known manufacturers, but there are lots of others as well. Well, that's all for now in this lesson, folks. Hopefully this has been informative to you. Let's connect again in the next lesson.